Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Yesterday was Monday, the start of the week, and we heard that this day Gillette, the razor and the shaving cream company, joined the chorus of the cultural forces, or shall I say anti-cultural forces. And it was all agog, full of excitement, and was critical of the so-called toxic masculinity. The commercial that it ran studied the history of American masculinity, and it showed that the whole American masculinity is rife with sexual harassment, bullying, cruelty, and they need to overcome all these influences. Now, it's very easy to imagine that these corporations pursuing accolades from the various social groups so that they can monetize virtue signaling. The purpose is commercial, money making. They don't care a fig whether masculinity is toxic or it's not toxic. And as far as the toxic masculinity is concerned, I fully appreciate that bullying, sexual harassment, cruelty of the women, cruelty of the children has no place in any society, least of all in the so-called modern age. It was never appreciated in the hoary past. It's not appreciated today. And it cannot be appreciated by any sensible human being because there's no difference except the gender issue between the men and the women. As a matter of fact, women have greater tolerance, women have greater endurance, they have greater capability to face a situation, forbearance, than the men have. Men usually have a shorter fuse than the women. And yet women have always been at the receiving end. But I'm not talking of the reality. The reality is that so-called toxic masculinity, is it really bad? Yes, if it's toxic, it's bad. But masculinity, then you have got to differentiate between masculinity and fake masculinity. The fake male masculinity is definitely toxic. But that's fake. Why we cannot appreciate the difference between the fake and the real? We are always led astray by the fake news, and same is the fake social morality, the new morality that is taking over. Yesterday I talked of the stupid, lunatic effect of political correctness, which deprived the originator of the DNA code from all the honors and respects. And today, I'm talking of the masculinity, the toxic masculinity, which is not there. And if it's there, it must be in a number that can be easily ignored. Now, I have no problem, I have no fight with the corporations trying to ride on the train, gravy train of the leftist agenda. Or corporations are kowtowing. Kowtowing to whom? To the leftist social priorities, knowing fully well that the conservatives generally do not threaten boycotts. All the boycotts, all the protests that you can see anywhere in the world are always promoted by the so-called progressives. And the progressives, the label they have adopted, the leftists. That as a matter of fact, they are the disruptors of the social order. And all the protests are generated by them, all the boycotts. You would never hear of a boycott of an organization, of a person, of a political leader, of a corporation by the conservatives. So these corporations say, okay, these are the people who would not say anything. They would accept anything. So why not accept the dictates of the leftists, the new morality, who are going to create a problem for us, who are happy to take up a protest, shouting, street demonstrations at the drop of a hat. But the main question is Gillette right? American Psychological Association agrees with Gillette. Last week it released a new set of guidelines slamming traditional masculinity. And according to American Psychological Association, traditional masculine ideology limits male psychological development, restricts and constrains their behavior, results in gender role strain and gender conflict, negatively influences mental and physical health. Now, according to APA, American Psychological Association, traditional masculinity, men have built a system of masculinity around bullying rather than civilizing, around solidity rather than emotional maturity. This is the fault of men, that young boys are growing up to become the toxic male. Nothing can be farther from absolute untrue, brazen lies. You remember in the Victorian era, and even after that, even we in our generation, and we don't belong to the Victorian era, would have civility to stand up when a lady enters, to give a seat to an old person, and to show deference. Where is that deference today? How many people let the ladies walk in? How many of them open the door for the ladies? I mean, I was watching a play, and I liked one thing. They said that in case you see a man opening the door of the car for a woman, then you can be sure either it's a new girlfriend or it's a new car, or the first car. Because the usual natural difference, respect, is lacking. If we truly believe that the younger men are growing into toxic vision of masculinity, then the fault is not of the masculine. Look at the reality. 23% of the American children live with a single mother. That percentage has tripled since 1960. As of 2012, 55% of the black children and 31% of the Hispanic children live with one parent, and predominantly that parent is mother. Now, where's the male influence? We are talking of the modern era. Majority of the teachers are females. Whether it is Europe or America or Asia, there's more and more trend, an increasing trend that the teachers should be the females. And primarily in the primary section, that is the period when the person's character is molded. So in the primary section, 90% of the teachers are female. According to the National Center for Education, 76% of the public school teachers all over are females. 80% of the social workers are females. So who comes in contact with them? Teachers, parents. So the parent is a single family, 55%. Mother is there. Then the teacher is there, who is a female. Then in case there's a problem, the social worker is there, and 80% are female. So who are they being exposed to? As a matter of fact, they lack male influence altogether. So from where in the hell does this fake male masculinity come in? I'm not saying that it does not exist. It does. But the toxic Male experience is not from the parents. The males are role models, but from the peers, their close associates, their friends. The toxic male impact is by the same age group, by the same culture group, and from the imagined stories of the male superiority, are the effect of some epics which made women tormentors or heroes. For years together, we have known that the vast majority of the criminals grew when there was no father at the home. 70% of the males, from 87, we have seen that the criminals, 70% of them grew up in a one-parent home, and primarily in that one-parent home, it was the mother, the center for the children, the families, says that 70% of the gang members, high school dropouts, teen suicides, teen pregnancies, teen substance abusers come from single mother homes. So, it's not a male toxicity, it's the failure of the male impact. Now, if you want to raise a generation of men who will treat women well, act as protectors rather than as victimizers, become the bedrock of a stable society, you don't need less masculinity. You need more of masculinity. The studies from Stanford, Harvard, and Census Bureau found that high level of father presence in the communities may matter even when having a father in the home directly. So you need father figures more, whether at home or in the schools. And such studies and from these three universities also found that the boys who grew up in the areas with high father presence are significantly less to become criminals. We have maligned masculinity as a society because men are likely to do great harm to the others. That's what is thought. It's wrong. The vast majority of the criminality comes from males. I agree, absolutely. The vast majority of the sexual misconduct comes from males. But those males are not the role models for the children to copy. Let's be very clear. They themselves are a result of lack of masculinity exposure. We have made a mistake in blaming the presence of males on this issue. It's a massive mistake of the social scientists, of the politicians, and the so-called progressive forces, which are in fact regressive forces, that we blame toxic masculinity rather than recognizing that this is a lack of masculinity. It's not excess, it's a lack of masculinity which is responsible for all these problems. And the type of the masculinity, majority of the men kick around and father the children in the first place, that is lacking. And what's the alternative? The alternative to masculine presence is no masculine presence. And lack of masculine presence leads to imagined areas of masculine superiority. And that is toxic. So, it's in fact the deprived men acting out of hurt and anger who are in danger, not the male. So the whole system needs a reorientation. We have got to look at the things as they are. The bedrock of any society is a family. When families are broken and the role model comes to one gender, then the balance is lost. And the result can be toxic masculinity, because then the children imagine what it would be to be a man. And the hormonal differences make them act like tyrants. Then the boys are mollycoddled by the mothers. They know they don't have a man. And do you know, most of the mothers say to the children in the single family, you are the man of the house. You are the man of the house. As if being a man of the house gives them a prerogative to be a tyrant. And then they exploit the parents, the mothers I mean, the girls who are weak at that time, and exploit them sexually. The teenage is the time when the most of the, as I said, teenage pregnancies take place, as seen from the result. And that is because they have not been guided properly either at home or at school. So let's reorient our thoughts. Let's say goodbye to the leftist imagined notions and realize the facts. That way lies the salvation of the social order. Otherwise, we are in for a wreck, a train wreck that would be a disaster. Thank you.